So, let's have a little look more at this concept of God, which we already talked about yesterday. There are basically two ways in which people come to the idea of a God. One is because of the miracle that they witness outside of them. And of course, if we go back in history, people were understanding a lot less about the universe. They did not know what was lightning, for example. So they thought this must be some god, like we had in the Celtic culture, Odin. Or they did not understand, how summer and winter and spring and so on, how the seasons were changing. They did not understand how a child was conceived, and all these things. So there always, to them, this was a miracle, a magic that they did not understand, and which they attributed to some entity beyond them, above them, some kind of God. So this is one way to come to the idea of God. The other way that we discussed yesterday is to go deep inside and find there the self, and realize this self as being cosmic consciousness, and realizing this cosmic consciousness as being one, as being undifferentiated, unchanging, ever-present, the source of everything, and being God. Then, as I said, God is just a name given to that, and any name can be given to it. In that definition of God, when it is properly explained, even to an atheist, he will easily understand. There will be no doubt about it. And especially if some meditation practice can be there, and some personal experience of this inner formless being can be had, then this understanding easily comes, and there will be no doubt. The first definition of God outside, as the one who created everything and is responsible for everything which we cannot understand, that is much more difficult to defend these days because of science. The development of science, the more and more understanding why there is lightning, why there are seasons, the Big Bang and all these things, makes people doubt the God whose definition is based on the creator of the miracle of the universe. But those same people, as I say, have no problem with God defined as cosmic consciousness. So, if yesterday somebody was asking how yoga or yogic teachings can be helping religions like Christianity to better communicate what they are doing, then I think this is one of the major ways. The God concept of Christianity, as it has been communicated to the public at large, has mostly been this outside God, this outside miracle. And then people ask, where is he? Can you show him to me? Is he not in the clouds? No, we've been there, we've been flying with airplanes there, and we couldn't find any God there in the clouds. So that sort of communication you can never win. And the more science develops, the more, you can never win it. We have to come back to a more real definition of God, a more correct definition of God. Now, some people may feel, many people feel, that religion and this concept of God is just something used for stupid people. No? That is what many people think. And is of course wrong. But there is also some truth in it. You can imagine that you have an enlightened being sitting somewhere under a tree, in the old time of India or wherever. And some peasants come by, and they don't know how to read, they don't know much on the intellectual level. And they come and they see this man sitting there, seemingly very happy, very relaxed. And they are like intrigued by it, and they come to this man. And they ask him, who are you, and how can you be so happy and relaxed, It's a really tough world we are living in, there are many dangers, and, our crops are often, not producing very much because of this and that, and so on. So they don't understand. So then you can imagine this guy is starting to tell the story I was telling yesterday morning, explaining to them how this universe that they see is really not as they see it, explaining to them, that if they can stop thinking and go deep inside, they find this formless entity which really is there, present in each and every one. It starts explaining God in that way. Well, quite likely they will not understand. It's very likely that they will not understand. It requires a certain possibility for abstraction, a certain intellectual capacity for abstraction. So they don't understand. So there is the guy, and they still want to know, how can you be this happy, how can you be this relaxed? And he wants to kind of tell it to them. And then he will tell to them, well, yeah, there is no problem, God takes care of everything. God really is good. And God they already know. God they already know, because God, they've been seeing outside of them, whatever they couldn't explain, they would say, oh, there's God, So, in that way, yes, you can say that this God outside, this definition of God outside, is because of a certain limitation in capacity of understanding reality on an intellectual level. And, well, we've come a long way since that time as a humanity. At least in Europe or in the Western countries or the developed countries, all kids go to school until age 16, have a minimum of intellectual understanding given to them. And in that way can more easily now understand the really true God which is behind it. And which is the same God, of course, as the one who is responsible for all the miracles outside. There is no conflict between those two. Only the conflict is there if you start, looking for that God. No? While if you understand this God as being omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, inside each and every thing in this universe, then it becomes much easier.